setting up. And then I keep it open. If you've seen, you know this. I keep it open on the side, so I'll like look at comments. If you want to pull it up and split screen it, some people do that.
Yeah, I have it. I have it on my computer, my other monitor. It's fine.
Cool.
Let me get.
Post about it.
I'm so slow sometimes at posting.
Same. That's all.
You know, honestly, I don't care. I feel like if you get it done, you get it done sometimes.
That's anything that COVID has pushed me to learn, even if it is an uncomfortable lesson for me. It's like, yo, things get done. It's okay if they don't get done right away when you wanted them to.
Yeah, I feel like as long as you're like letting people know what's going on in your brain. Like I have so many friends who like are just, they live alone or they're like just not loving life right now. And they're just like, this fucking sucks. Like I just want to sit around and do nothing. And that's kind of the mindset I have been in. I feel like since 2021, I've been really trying to flip that. Like my goal has been to flip that mindset. So
is it going well so far? In week 3?
I've cried less this year, but this year's been shorter, so we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes.
Fair, that makes sense.
Oh, I think overall, I think it is. I think I've just been trying to put like better practices in my routine because I like live alone. So like I don't go anywhere. So I spend like the majority of my time working from home now. And then crochet is like my side hustle, I would say. But it's kind of like, I like to equalize it as a part-time job. But like, I don't know. It's just like I'm here all the time. So I got to make sure that I have some sort of routine for myself.
I can't even imagine that. Like I'm such an extroverted person. I like love being around people. And when the world shut down, it was like, I say good timing, but that feels like a weird phrase. My grandpa was really sick with cancer, like right when it shut down. So I was like living alone, but I was like, well, I'm not going to stay here. I'm going to quarantine with them. Like, I'm just going to go home.
Yeah.
Ended up being there for 6 months, maybe. I was like home with family. So I was like lucky that I didn't have to be alone. And now I moved in with my partner since then, but I like can't imagine being alone in my apartment all day.
See, that's what some people say to me, but I'm also like my sister says that to me all the time. She's like, I can't. And I'm like, but I'm also like, I've always been someone who does things by myself. Like as a kid, I was always someone who was like outside on the trampoline reading my books while like everyone else was doing something. Like I kind of was a black sheep a little bit. So I like to think of myself as a weirdo. Like, you know, I'm comfortable with it. My friends check in on me and they're like, you know, we haven't heard from you in a while. And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm fine. Like, I'm trying to get better at those social habits. Like I need to be more social too. Like I spend a little too much time alone, which is sometimes concerning to people.
It's so funny though, because I say like my full-time job, but my day job, because it takes up as much time, is I'm a therapist. And it's funny because I think most therapists, most people, at least in the office where I work, are like super introverted, love being alone. So they're like, quarantine's okay. Like, I don't mind this. It's nice to like have some time by myself and not have to like pretend to like go to social things and be excited about it. They were like, I used to be the friend who was like, yeah, I'll come. And then would like cancel last minute. They're like, so this takes all of that away from me. And I'm just like, Wow, tell me more. I don't understand.
That is me, unfortunately. Like, I would be that friend where my friends would be like, do you want to go to the bar and get a drink? And I'll be like, yeah, I'd really love to go and see you. And then I'd go and I'd get like one drink in and I'd be like, I really would love to go home. Like, not because I don't want to be around them. Like, I love them, but I don't know what it is about it. Like, I talked to one of my best friends and she's always like, it's because you're an empath and you just like that's something, sometimes you can't handle that. But also she's, I don't know about that. But also I feel like I need to get better at that sort of thing. But I am taking pride that I do enjoy some alone time. So
Yeah. It's definitely I would say it's a skill or like talent or gift maybe, because a lot of people can't do that. Like a lot of people really, really struggle with that. So I guess it's a good gift to have right now.
for now, yeah, for now. Once things open back up, I'll be more social. I promise. Like,
but then it's always there and you have it and you can like flex. Even if you choose to get more social, if you find yourself alone, you'll be solid. And if you choose to be social at times, cool. And you can like have more flexibility there.
yeah, like I remember going to OML for the first time and like being terrified to meet everyone, but like also like I had Darian next to me, so I like had some sort of moral support. Like I know we both went into that very nervous, and like that I loved that sort of social situation. But like you'd go back to your Airbnb and it's nice to just be like, okay, that was a lot of faces, that was a lot of people, this is like a new place. Like I am really excited to like do the next one, but I know it's like a lot more people. And it's exciting, but it's also like sometimes social situations do overwhelm me. I don't know if I like get overstimulated, but like I also just love being low key. I feel like that's why crochet is like my niche.
Mm-hmm. So we're like way into this. I know people might be joining us, starting to join. So why don't we introduce ourselves and then continue a little bit more of our.
Probably talk about who I am. Maybe people don't know who I am.
Yes. So we'll say welcome to anybody who's here. If you're watching live, glad you're joining us. If you're watching later, thanks for checking it out. This is week 12 of the Self-Care Collaborative. Every time I say a week, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's week 12, but like, whatever. I can't believe it's week 12. If this is your first time checking us out, thanks for checking it out. Definitely go back and check out the other 11 videos before this one. They're all saved on my YouTube channel. They're really, really, really awesome, I think. And it's always fun to see people binging them or like watching them after the fact and being like, oh, I'm catching up on this from 3 weeks ago. I'm like, cool, that's fun. That's exciting.
I listened to them all like podcast style. Like I was listening to them this past week and the week before, like, cause I had to catch up on a couple and I was listening to them like podcast style.
I do the same thing with most video YouTube channels or whatever. I like just put them on when I'm like doing stuff in the house. So I don't always see. And then it's funny because if they're like, I can tell they're showing something that I want to see, I like run over and look. I'm like, oh, cool. And then I like go back.
It's seriously the only reason I pay for Premiere, so that I can close my phone and have it still playing.
Literally, when I had like my free trial and then I lost it, I was like, oh, it might be worth it, because it's like really annoying to not be able to do that.
I got sucked in with the free trial and then they just are taking my money out of my account. I'm just letting it happen.
Mm-hmm. That works.
Yeah.
But I'm super excited. I'm super grateful to be here with you tonight. And why don't you go ahead and tell the people who you are, where we can find you, all the good stuff.
So for those who don't know me, I'm Shannon, also known as Shannon Creates. You can find me on, most socials. Instagram and TikTok are like my biggest right now, I guess. I just got a YouTube. I have my own website, Shannon Creates Designs, but basically I'm a crochet designer and fiber artist. I'm located in Syracuse, New York. And I just kind of make garment designs, do some design work, and like to play with yarn, you know?
Mhm. And I feel like there needs to be the like asterisk footnote that's like everybody will know who you are. It's so silly to even say, oh, in case you don't know me. I'm like, yes, obviously everyone will know who you are, and you just hit 10K on Instagram and you fancy now, and that's exciting.
Oh yeah, that is exciting. It is it's kind of weird. I don't know. Like I don't think anything's different really. Like I don't want to treat it like it's different, you know. I think like I'm just grateful that people like appreciate me enough to like want to see what I'm doing. Um you know, I never look at the numbers like numbers. They're always people to me. Like I think that's the cool thing about like now being on TikTok is I've realized so many people don't actually have Instagram. Like they don't have it and they don't care for it. And just kind of helping people learn a craft is kind of where I'm at with my craft. So
that's a good point too, especially I find on YouTube that a lot of folks, at least who are on my channel, don't have an Instagram. So sometimes I'll like introduce something that I've been posting about on my Instagram for a while. And people are like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. And I'm like, oh yeah, I have to remember that. So it's possible that there are people here who aren't aware of who you are or aren't on Instagram or TikTok or whatever.
yeah, and I feel like a lot of people use Instagram as like their main source. So like when I went on TikTok and people were like, yeah, I'm like, you can find all my links on Instagram. And they're like, I don't have an Instagram. And I'm like, okay, I was like, because my whole community is on Instagram. Like everyone, you know, that I've met in the fiber community, like, you know, like some of my good friends, you know, are on there, like Kate and everything like that. I'm like, what? There's people who exist outside of this realm? Like,
it's funny. I wonder if it's a generational thing, like younger, because I know working at a college, a lot of those folks don't have Instagram. They don't text each other, they Snapchat each other, and they don't have Instagram. Not too many folks have Twitter anymore, but everyone obviously has a TikTok. And I'm like, oh, it's so interesting.
yeah, I think I'm definitely scared to like say my age on TikTok. Like that's not going to happen until that's probably will never happen just because I feel like a lot of my followers on TikTok, or at least the people that are like, you know, duetting my videos like recently, they're like younger people who are learning how to crochet. Like one of the first people who messaged me on Instagram was and found me from TikTok was like, I'm 12 and I just made this like cute little like square crochet because I wanted to learn how to crochet. And then she made my little octopus and I was like, my heart. And I like sent her, you know, she wanted to learn more amigurumi. So I kind of referred her to other pages because I don't do a lot of that. But I just thought, I was like, oh my God, that's like the coolest thing. Like,
that's so cool. And like, I don't know, a cool way to reach a different group of people. Mia, I talk about it every single week, but I'll give Mia her shout out now. That Mia, the yarn goddess, usually watches, and she let me know I didn't realize that she can't comment on here because you have to be over 14, I guess, to comment on Instagram, on YouTube. So she's like, I'm almost watching your videos, but I just can't let you know that I'm there. But that's so cool to have so many young folks and like be inspiring them in this new way and hopefully broadening the knitting crochet fiber, I guess, community.
yeah.
Feels like it was stuck on Instagram for, I don't know, as long as I've known about it.
Like I feel like it's either been on YouTube or Instagram. And I think a lot of people when TikTok first like came out, they were like, oh, it's young people dancing and stuff like that. So it's been cool to see like more craft people emerge. I know there's a ton of like crocheters and knitters and awesome people on TikTok, like and maids on there. I mean, Sweetly Stitches, you got Hook and Hands. Like I could Jessica from the Hook Nook, like there's a bunch of people on there, which is awesome. So it's cool to see that sort of opening up.
Yeah, it's funny sometimes I'm not on TikTok because it feels like a dangerous rabbit hole for me. Like my sister sends me all the TikToks, at least 20 a day, and that like fills my void. But if I had it, it'd be dangerous. But it's funny because I have people in my life, like outside of my knitting life, whenever they see some sort of crafty TikTok are like, oh, look, and send it to me. And I'm like, oh yeah, I know. I follow her. Like that's so, or like, yeah, that's so-and-so. They're like, you know who this is? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh, it just like came up on my feed or whatever it's called. And I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah, it's cool to see it like emerge sort of thing. And like, I think it's cool that a lot of people are learning from it. I know like 2020 like has all been about virtual learning, obviously, and kind of making that transition. I know just like within my full-time job, that's like a lot of like what we're doing, telehealth services and like making sure that we can try to make our services as accessible and as safe as possible and stuff like that. So like, and that kind of got me thinking like, you know, when I got on TikTok and I'm like, oh, people don't have Instagram, people don't have this, like certain platforms, like just people want to access certain things. Like I saw your video and you were like, I chose to do YouTube because it has subtitles. And like that's a big fault with Instagram is like it does not offer subtitles. And it's like, okay, well, we need to like be more accessible in that way. Like you have to think about all those people that don't want to be on Instagram because they might not be able to access it or enjoy it on that sort of sense. So like that's kind of what inspired me to like make my first YouTube video was like I want to like people want to learn how to crochet, but they're like, my daughter like knows how to crochet, but she can't follow a written pattern worth anything. That's what one of my friends said. And I'm like, well, if I had video patterns, then maybe more people could like do my patterns. It might make it more easier too. I mean, I remember learning and like reading a written pattern and being like, what the hell is that? I don't know. What now I got to scroll to the top to figure that out.
Oh, that's so funny. I'm also really curious, Shannon, to hear, like, it's fun to hear the new things you're doing and where you are now in terms of your fiber journey. I'm curious, I don't know when I started, I don't know how I found you. It had to be a few years ago, 2 years ago, maybe. But I feel like I'm assuming here, I don't know how long you've actually been in this world. I feel like I don't know the full span of your journey in this world. So I'm kind of curious to hear where you started out and how you got into crocheting and being on social media and all of that.
Yeah, so I've had my Instagram for probably like 4 years or so. Like it's been a while. Like I started crocheting, like I knew how to crochet, like my mom had kind of like given me a yarn and hook as a kid, like from the basement at like 12, and I tried to learn and I could literally only chain. That's all I could do. Could only chain, did nothing else with it, gave up. And then like when I became like 21, I ended up getting like my first job after like college, and it was like a personal assistant position for a young man who had physical limitations, and I just kind of went to work with him and like assisted him with whatever he, you know, asked me, whatever he needed. And the job just had like a lot of downtime. So, you know, I live in Syracuse and it's freezing here during the winter. So I was like, I just want to like learn how to do something. So I just started following YouTube tutorials and I learned how to crochet and like just started following people on my like I found Jessica the Hook Nook on my personal Instagram, and I was like, oh, I really want to make her pom-pom, like her puff stitch beanie. And that was like the first project I ever made. And then I just kind of like really loved it and like kept going with it. And then after that job kind of unfortunately he ended up passing away and I lost my job. And so I was unemployed for like 3 months. It was really tough for me to find a new job. And I just did a lot of crochet like during that time. It was like the only thing that like kept me afloat. Like I felt like I was like selling hats a little bit. And then I got an awesome job as like a nanny for 2 kids. One of them has, you know, physical limitations as well, but he's like my biggest fan. I cannot say anything better about like how much this family like has supported me with that sort of thing, like, and just being like the biggest encouragers for it. Like the whole reason I call myself the crochet queen is because we did dance parties and like he would announce me as the crochet queen. So that's why it's in my bio. Like, so like, it's just kind of like been that sort of thing. So then I kind of started getting out of the ready to ship aspect and making products, because I hated making the same thing like over and over again. And I really wanted to just make things that I could wear. Like I would see a sweater and be like, it's about time I learned how to crochet a sweater. So like instead of like doing someone else's pattern, I did a few other patterns. Like I did a couple other people's sweater pattern, and then I did a t-shirt pattern and stuff like that. And then I was like, I'm going to just make my own dress that I wanted to do. And then I ended up making like seamless Sunday, and that was like my first design. And then it kind of went from there. So now it's here. My biggest supporters, in that time, like what really kind of kicked it off for me was when the Hook Nook reached out to me and asked me to be on her team. That's really what put it in high gear, because at that point there were scheduled patterns that needed to be done, and it was using her new products, and it was exciting. And I was like, wow, okay. I was like, okay, I'm nervous, but that kind of really kicked it into high gear, and everyone on that team, was super supportive, and like it was just like it's just been an awesome experience, honestly. So
that's so cool. And I like feel so much warmth, because I always say to Michael and people who ask that, I'm like, it's such a weird thing. People are like, oh, why do you dye yarn? Or like, why do you like it? And I'm like, I just love being a part of people's story. Like, I love that I'm part of a project that like usually has some meaning or memories like worked into it. And like, then they become part of my story too. Like they probably don't realize it. And so hearing your journey from like, yeah, I don't know, I kind of knew as a kid. I remember too. I just had the longest chain in the world that I was like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this?
Yeah, right. Like,
and then hearing when, as an adult, how it became so like intertwined with your story and working with these people who, sound like obviously mean a lot to you and provide a lot of support. And it sounds like then they became part of your story and like your journey too. And I don't know, that just seems really cool.
Yeah, both those families are just amazing. Like they, they're very close to my heart, even though, I think people think about those positions and they're like, you get really close to people in those positions. And like, even today, I'm answering FaceTime calls just right now, doing dance parties and stuff, but like just people who kind of outside of that realm, like, my family and my best friends, they're just like really supportive, which is really nice. I think that's like people who are like going to be there and be like, what you do is really cool, because there are a lot of days where they're like, I don't feel like it's cool. I don't feel like it's worth it. Like, I want to quit. Like, what the fuck is the point? Like, I'm just done. So, it's nice to have those people for sure.
Yeah, I hear that. I'm also kind of curious too. You were saying after that first job, when you had that little bit of break, that like crocheting was one thing that you had. And it sounds like maybe part of it was like financially and starting to sell items. But I'm kind of wondering if it was more than that, if it was part of like nurturing or taking care of yourself in a different way. And maybe that opens up into like what your self-care journey has kind of looked like for you in your life.
So like, I definitely think, to get really deep, I guess, but during that point of my life, like I have always just struggled, and this is like a trigger warning, I guess, for people. I've just like always struggled like with my self-image and like who I am as a person, and like reflecting on that. Like as a teenager, like I just felt very suicidal, and like I just didn't like myself as a person. And like now that I'm growing up, I feel like that's changed a lot. Or I'm trying to make that change. Like I'm trying to still like not regress those like old thoughts that are like, you're a loser, sort of things. And I feel like that's natural. And I feel like during that time, that was like one of my lower times, luckily my partner at the time also like supported me financially, and like I had that stability of a person, and but like it was still really tough for me because I'm very independent. If anyone like knows me, they know that like I really want to do things myself. Like it doesn't make me comfortable knowing that someone's taking care of me. Like it doesn't make me feel good. So like that was something that I like really dove into and made me feel good. and really like picked me up. And and that's what kind of led me into, you know, being like feeling confident enough to go into that position, to be like, okay, I can go back to like caring for someone else because I've cared for myself a little bit during this time.
Yeah. It sounds like part of it was like nurturing and maybe even just like accepting or coming to terms with a lot of stuff. But part of it also sounds like it became like a piece of your identity. And I don't know, maybe I'm missing on that, but I know when I think about myself and who I am as a person, like a maker is part of that. And it sounds like that time shaping your identity gave you a little bit more space to be like, okay, I can at least tolerate like what's happening inside here for me and like start doing things out in the world that matter to me.
Yeah, I think it's a huge part of my identity. Like I think it almost consumes me a little too much, like a little bit. Like I need to find the balance of like, you know, I love crochet and like I love doing what I do, but I also feel like I let it consume me to the point where I put so much pressure on myself that I'm like, okay, well, you work a full-time job, girl. You can't do everything, and then you can't want to like hang out and like chill a little bit. Like you have to also give yourself breaks. So it's been like 2021 has been like recognizing that and being like, okay, I know you want to do all these things, but here are like the priorities, and you might not be able to do that. And you really just need to focus on like what feels good right now, because I feel like the last year has just been like shit, like to put it very bluntly. So, and to focus on anything that like feels good right now, I think is the best thing.
Yeah. And I love that piece too of like, I think that's a theme that has come up in a lot of these videos, but maybe we haven't talked about too explicitly, that like when you do something that makes you feel good, you want to do it a lot. Like you want to do it more, and then it becomes part of who you are. So then you do it even more. But it seems like a lot of folks can start to cross the line or push up on the boundary of like, this is too much, or like I need to pull back to make sure it stays self-care for me and doesn't become something I'm like resenting or not enjoying working on because I'm putting so much pressure on myself to like meet these guidelines or get the, you know, these many things done in this time frame.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like it's like sometimes we like can overstimulate ourselves like with too much, and then we get on like my biggest thing is I will get on Instagram and I will compare myself to people who I should not compare myself to, because they are not in the same position as me. So I don't know why I do that. Like I think that is like the biggest like toxic thing that we can do. And I have been in like the darkest of times because and I hate to point fingers at Instagram, but I'm gonna do it. And I'm gonna point fingers at myself too, because I feel like Instagram has like, it only like, I think Nititude kind of touched on this. Like she said, you know, Instagram shows like the nice kind of parts of our life. Like it shows me, you know, looking so cute on my couch, like with my yarn. It doesn't show me like with my hair that hasn't been washed in 5 days and me wearing dirty sweatpants. And like, you know, I mean, I could put that out there, but I feel like, you know, it's also a branding sort of website. So it's like not fair to go on there and be like, well, I see someone who does crochet full time and I'm jealous that I'm not producing as much as them. Okay, well, why are you comparing that? That's their job, you know? You have your full-time job and then you have this part-time job. So I don't know why you're comparing yourself to that person. And I think we all get in that sort of cycle. So
yeah, it feels so normal. I mean, I'm like laughing hearing you say that because I'm like, oh yeah, how many times do I like scroll on Instagram, see like Explorer Knits and Fibers sold out in like a minute, and I'm like, damn, I stink. I'm like the worst yarn dyer, and I'm like, okay, wait a minute, hold up here, let's like wait a minute. But I think it's really hard when you're only seeing people's highlight reel and you're only seeing what they want you to see, right? Like I'm not seeing the times that colorways don't sell out or like don't do well or whatever. And so I definitely hear that piece. How do you, I guess I'm kind of curious what, I know we were chatting a little bit about this at the front end, but hearing you say like, I'm trying to do better at finding that balance. And it sounds like maybe reminding yourself of some things that we forget when we're being humans. Like what, how do you do that? How are you finding balance, or how do you remember to like tell yourself, okay, you're comparing yourself to someone, let's like reel it back or do that less?
So I feel like I've been, with my job, it's like constantly encouraging others. So I feel like I need to take that advice sometimes. It's like, I need to encourage myself. So like, I think it's so difficult. I've been one where I go on and there are certain makers that I just compare myself to, and I will look at what they're doing. And I think it's just been, the key is just like remembering what you are successful in. Like, what do you do that like other people don't do that like is positive? I can sit here and be like, I have an awesome full-time job that like is flexible to me. I don't have a set schedule. I'm luckily one who can work from home during this time. Like, I'm blessed to have the people who want to see what I do. Like, and I think it's hard to be like, oh, well, I wish I was doing that. I wish I was doing that, because there's still time to do all that. Like, I feel like people are always feeling so rushed too. It's nice to kind of slow down, and like, especially right now, is like spending so much time at home, is like slow down, maybe do something for yourself that's only focused on yourself, that doesn't revolve around your phone, doesn't revolve around crochet even. That's something completely different that could just be something that to add to your schedule. Because I feel like now that people are spending more time at home, the people who were previously maybe social people are spending more time doing crochet, and they're just doing all that all the time. So kind of filling in those gaps of like, okay, I don't want to crochet right now. I just want to like lay on my couch and eat carrot cake Oreos. Like, I don't know. Like, sometimes I've been doing that and I'm not ashamed of it. But, I think sometimes it's just recognizing and slowing down what you have and what you're grateful for, because especially right now, I think there are a lot of people who are in uncomfortable times, and people who are really sad, and like people who have lost their jobs, and people who have lost family members. And it's just like really important to be like, okay, well, I'm glad that at least I have this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of cliche to say, to be like, you should count your blessings, but you really, I think right now it's important to kind of focus on yourself. And I guess that's kind of selfish, but just recognizing like, I have this and I'm blessed to kind of have this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds like appreciating the gifts that you have in your life and recognizing that, especially right now, a lot of people don't have those. But I also hear a piece of like, and recognizing the gifts or like unique things that you have about you and who you are and like what you bring to the spaces you're in. And so I hear that on one side, and then hearing this other piece of like, it's also okay, like giving yourself permission to take time for yourself, even though your brain might tell you it's being selfish, because like that's what he tells us, right? Like, don't do that, that's rude, or don't do that, that's selfish. And so I'm also really curious to hear what other things you do to take care of yourself beside crochet, or when you put down your phone. What are some of those things that you do to kind of recharge or nurture yourself?
I have been, so I've been just like, I have been doing a lot of crochet recently, but I've also been binging a lot of TV and kind of focusing like on other things. Like, I've been on Reddit. I used to do like Reddit a lot. And like, I come from like a gaming family. So like, my sister like plays Luigi's Mansion, she plays Mario Kart, and my brother's like a Twitch streamer. And like, so like kind of going over there and playing those sort of things, and just kind of getting on my computer and playing some things, and just kind of spending a little time away from crochet. I've been watching like a lot of YouTube videos. I've been kind of doing a little bit more yoga. Like, I've been trying to do like 30 minutes of some sort of exercise, just because I feel like I was talking to my sister about it. We were kids who were raised on like the premise, you need to be outside all day. Like, we don't want you inside. Get the hell out of our house. Like, and now as an adult, like, I feel guilty when I do not go outside. Like, because of quarantine and like just like where I live, like I don't really like to be like, so I'm like, I was telling her, I'm like, I don't spend enough time like doing something outside or like even doing enough like outside of my four walls. Yeah. Kind of like, biggest thing that I've been spending my time is just because I have been spending a lot of time home because I'm potentially around high risk people is I've just been spending so much time organizing. Like I've redone my space in here so many times and I don't think I'll touch it again, but just to make myself feel good. Like I feel like I walk in my office now and I feel good about that. Like I went through all my kitchen cabinets and I like cleaned everything and I like pulled all my spices out and I like wiped it down and I like put that away. And I feel like that's always been like a big anxiety like reducer for me. Like even as a kid, I would like rearrange my bedroom and stuff like that. So I feel like that's what I'm doing right now is outside of like crochet. Unfortunately, I'm spending a lot of time like cleaning, but I feel like I'm getting rid of also a lot of stuff that I don't need right now. So kind of just reevaluating my space, organizing my space, making my space feel like good to me too. Mm-hmm. My dad like painted me for Christmas, like this painting of the Northern Lights. And like, he's so cute. He like followed like a Bob Ross, like YouTube tutorial. And, you know, it's just cute to kind of like hang that up and like see all my art in my apartment and like kind of feel good about my space. Because there was a time where I was really not feeling good about that. So.
Yeah. And I mean, it sounds like you're being really intentional with how you're spending your time and the things that you're doing, which feels super important. I was saying before that, like, I don't know, especially being home in the same space all day, it feels like easy to lose time. Mm-hmm. She's right there. I'll just sit down and start scrolling through something, or like, I don't know, I don't even know what I do. And then it's like, oh, all this time is gone. I could have been doing something like meaningful. And so it sounds like you're being really intentional in trying to hit these different things that like matter to you. And part of that is being away from crochet and taking time there, being physical, which like I talked about with Darian, that like, yeah, some days, some weeks, I'm like, when did I leave this apartment? I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's terrible. And I was never ever like that. So so being really intentional. And the rearranging thing, I didn't like watch it or get into like Marie Kondo.
Oh yeah. I forget her last name, but she's like Marie something, but I know what you're talking about. I'm not the queen of organization by any means. If you want to talk to that, you talk to my sister, but like I at least like my sister walks in my apartment and she at least says, wow, your apartment's clean. And I'm like, yeah, I've been cleaning it. So because I used to just be like, I'm a messy person at heart, unfortunately. So
I'm the same way. And I know it impacts me so much. Like I'll get to a point that's like, oh my God, I need to clean, because like if my apartment is a mess, I feel like a mess and I'm like stressed out about it. And I don't know, I guess I thought it was like just like common sense. Like, yeah, that makes sense. But I know heading into quarantine, the director of the counseling center where I work was talking a lot. He's much older, he's in his 70s, and was saying that like he's been having a really hard time with our brains literally slowing down. Like when we have less stimulation and less variety in what we do, our brains slow down because it doesn't need to work as hard, because it's kind of just going into like automatic pilot. And so he was doing a lot of research on like how to keep your brain and like your alertness. And one of the things that a lot of research said was to rearrange and change your environment. Mm-hmm. and like make sure that you're really happy with and intentional about the things that you're looking at. And I think most people think like furniture and paintings, but they were like, even like the way your clothes are organized, the way your drawers are organized. So hearing like, yeah, even going through your kitchen cabinets and making sure you're like happy when you open your cabinet.
Yeah.
Clean spices or whatever. And so it's funny that I think it's something humans do like instinctually, but there's now a lot of research coming out that's like, yeah, you guys know what you're doing. Like you're pretty spot on there.
Yeah. I think it just, I don't know, it just makes me feel more comfortable. Like, especially because I'm working from home now, so I have to create that divide mentally for myself. I used to just like go to my office, come home, and then Shannon Creates would be my home. But now it's like, okay, I have to wake up and I do my day job, and I want to do Shannon Creates at like 5, 6 o'clock when day job's over. But how do I separate that? Because, you know, my real job has, I don't want to say real job, my day job has my laptop, you know, all my stuff for that. And then Shannon Creates has like my notebook and like all my yarn. And it's kind of just been like, how do I divide that? And like, you know, I got like my desk over here, and then I have my desk over here, and now I feel like a lot more stuff, but I feel like it's more organized where I can be more efficient too. So I think that has helped me a lot.
Yeah, it's creating boundaries that we didn't used to have to create. Like Casey was talking about that last week, that like we're used to leaving our space, getting in the car or the bus or on your bike or walking, whatever you did, physically moving and going to a different place where you did your work, and then physically leaving and coming home. And so those boundaries were like just inherently baked into that. And now when everything is happening in the same space, it's really hard to do that. And it sounds like you're being really, or you're figuring out what's working for you in terms of being intentional around setting boundaries, keeping those things separate in a way that works for you and makes you feel comfortable and efficient to get what you need to get done and not go crazy.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like with us, like working from home, people who are, I feel like the expectation, like you have to put those expectations on yourself now, because I don't have to get up and I don't have to put makeup on. Like people usually, like we have like maybe one video staff meeting a week, and I'm like, okay, I gotta get ready one day a week. I miss like getting ready. Like, but you have to have those expectations for yourself now where you're like, okay, I have to sit down and I have to do 8 hours of work while I'm surrounded by this. Okay, I will do my best. But just kind of making sure that you're, you know, doing that. Like one of the weirdest tips that I learned that I use is setting like a 25-minute timer for yourself. It's the most annoying thing. You'll hate it. Like you'll hate it. But every time it goes off, if you haven't done work in that 25 minutes, then what the hell are you doing? Like because it creates that barrier between 15 and 30 minutes where you're like, okay, it's been 25 minutes. That's almost been a half, like your brain's like, oh my God, that's almost been a half hour. So I learned that trick where like during work days, I have like a 25-minute timer, and it's like, it's something that goes off and I'm like, okay, this past, especially the way that I have to do my job and stuff like that, it's helpful. But I found that to be like super helpful to stay on task with what I'm doing. Like also helps me like get through the work day. It's like, okay, you know, we're at 1:30 now. We're getting there. We're getting there. So
yeah, it sounds like just good, like, I don't know, when you're driving, they're usually like mile markers that
yeah.
like matter because you're like, oh, I need to get off here and do that. But sometimes it's just nice to know that like, okay, we've come this far. We only have this much more to go.
Like it sounds like such a stupid, silly thing, but like if anyone is having issues like working from home and focusing, I have found that to be an annoying but awesome like sort of thing. Because I'm usually just screaming at my Alexa to shut up. And but you know, I think it's helpful because it's like, okay, wow, I've completed this much work in 25. Like I can actually do a lot of stuff in 25 minutes if I actually tried to. So
Yeah, that's super productive. Be like, oh wow, it's only been 25 minutes. Like, look at all the stuff I got done.
like this day's gonna be easy. What? And then it usually doesn't go like that. Usually it's been like, why the hell have I been on the phone for this long? But either way, you know, I love both my jobs, so can't complain too much.
Mm-hmm. It's funny too, though, creating structure. I know, I don't know, it's been like the big joke. Maybe it's not a joke. Maybe it's like more serious than I think, that people are like, what are we going to have to do when we have to put pants on again? And like, I'm obviously in a lot of meetings today, but people only see me from here up. So like, they don't know. And my sister is working from home, but she's a graphic designer. So she's like, have meetings. So she's like in sweatpants and pajamas. And I've like made it a point. I like don't always do my hair and my makeup, but I'm like, I'm going to put on pants every day. Like I'm going to put on jeans. I don't wear like work pants around the house, but I'm like, it feels important for me to like, that's some sort of boundary, like to get up in the morning, get ready. And then it's like, okay, I'm ready for work. I can do stuff. If I was like in my pajamas, I'd be like, oh, let me just watch this YouTube video. Let me do this. And I would
exactly. You feel more relaxed and at home. So if you get yourself ready, like I feel like you are like, okay, I'm in work. Like it's like kind of putting on different hats. I'm in work mode right now. I think that's so important. I think people like we became so busy bodies that like people forgot about like our basic routines that we took advantage of. And now people are in the routine of not having those routines. And it's kind of like, okay, well, you haven't worn a bra in like 367 days. So like, what are we doing? We got to figure it out. Are you going to continue this lifestyle or are you going to change it?
Mm-hmm. What's going to happen when you have to put a bra on one day? You're going to be like, oh, this is.
I'm probably not going to, honestly. That's probably what I'm probably going to just layer up.
That's amazing.
Unless, well, we'll see. We'll probably wear one, but I just have a feeling too, just, I don't know. I'm getting used to working at home. We'll just say it like that. I think people, I think it's important to establish a routine if you are at home right now. I think it's good just for your mental health and like to get through the day. Like, I think after yesterday, I think people are feeling a lot more hopeful, hopefully. And like, I feel like a lot of us felt like a weight lifted off our shoulders. I cried a little bit, so I feel like people can progress a little bit, maybe this year a little bit more smoother, but just kind of focusing on like, we need to be caring for ourselves. We need to be caring for others. So
yeah, especially after yesterday. And I mean, I don't know if this is what you're hinting at here, but I've been thinking a lot that I'm like, even after the vaccine is like on, I don't think it'll ever be gone, under control maybe is a better word. I don't know that things are like gonna go back to the way they were. I think a lot of jobs, especially, right, I'm from New Jersey and I'm in PA now, but so many of my friends work and live in the city.
Yeah.
And we're never going back to work because it costs so much money to like have office space in New York. We're probably going to be remote for a really long time. I know in therapy, like a lot of people really like telehealth. They're like, it's accessible for me. I feel safer or whatever that is.
Yep.
So I imagine I'm sure we'll see some clients in person, but I think we're going to continue to see a lot of clients will probably have the option to do this remotely, even if we have to go into the office. But I think it's important to start creating some of that routine and boundaries like you're saying now, because we really don't know what things are going to look like in the long run. And so I know initially I was like, oh, it's only going to be 2 weeks. Our school had originally been like, we're going to shut down for 2 weeks. So it was like, hey, it's a short-term thing. I don't really need to adjust to this. But now it's like, who knows? It's been almost a year and who knows what it's going to look like. So
I mean, my job was like, you could work in the office or you could work at home. Like it was your choice. So it's kind of like down to, well, you can work at home all the time. It's just we're limiting face-to-face interaction with a lot of our individuals just because they're high risk. But I miss seeing people, but I have a feeling I'm going to get used to staying at home a little bit, which is okay. I just want to make sure that I'm establishing some sort of routine for myself. Like, I sometimes get angry, like about COVID and everything, because I get like pissed off because I'm like, the hell, I got a new apartment with an office for my Shannon Create stuff. And now my work's intruding it. Like, what am I doing? But just kind of accepting those things and moving forward that too, and just being, this is how it is. We can't be upset with it anymore. We're accepting it. We're going to take it with a grain of salt, and we're going to just love it now, make do with it. So
It's funny. I remember when I was really young, we were lucky. My mom got to stay home with me and my sister until we were like later elementary school. And being a kid, you're like, yeah, my mom doesn't work. And my mom would be like, no, I work. I just take care of the house and like take care of you. And I like didn't really get it, but I was like, you're not leaving. You're not like, you don't have a boss. And now I'm like, oh, she's like, yeah, you know how hard it was when you don't have a boss and you're home all day to like get shit done and like set a routine for you and like make sure all of that happens. So I'm like, oh, even though I have a boss, like I feel some of that. And it makes me really curious too. I don't know if this is, maybe I'm jumping the gun here, if this is what you're imagining or if you're thinking something totally different, but I'm curious to hear if you've been watching, obviously, every week, the maker that's interviewing or chatting with me gives some sort of like homework assignment or challenge or call to action to folks for something for them to try out for that week or see if it's something that could work for them. And I'm curious if you have anything in mind, I guess, that you would like people to try out.
I did. I just kind of was going to challenge people to do like what I've been doing in the like last 3 weeks, which is just like take time to like do something alone that feels good to you, like no matter what it is. And I know there have been a ton of people on here that have kind of said like similar things, but just kind of making sure that you're really taking that time like apart, even if it's like apart from crochet, because I know knitting or crochet, because I know that can sometimes be stressful too. Like pattern testers have deadlines, designers feel like they have deadlines, like people want to produce content, like you can chill for a moment, like just chill. And also just like take the time to like organize a little bit of your space, like take the time to like take that Tupperware that's been filled with yarn or whatever that needs to be untangled and like do it. You've been looking at it for so long. I know you have some. I know someone out there has some. I do. I actually put it in the other room because I didn't want people to see it, to be honest. I hid it. But I have like yarn that I got for Christmas that needs to be like put on my shelf. Like just kind of take the time to like organize part of your space. Like what I've been doing is I really took the time to like organize and put away a lot of my, have like a zillion hooks like that needed to be like put on these shelves. I had things that like needed to be put away. I had yarn everywhere, like just in one space, and then making sure that all my work stuff was in one space, just making sure that organization so that I could wake up and feel refreshed and feel like I was ready for the next day. It's kind of like when your mom would lay out outfits for you as a kid the night before. So kind of doing that sort of stuff.
I love this. Probably because like I need to do this myself. Like I feel called out, but I'm like, oh, it's fine. It's coming from a place of love. I probably need to do that, especially after, I don't know, the holidays. We like just are taking down holiday decorations now because like, whatever, I'm an adult and I can do what I want and I want to
enjoy that spirit.
But like, everyone sort of just like creeps out. Like, oh, there's a shawl I was looking at the other day that's just like sitting on this poof that I have in my family room. Like, why is that here? That doesn't need to be there. And like the bags of projects that are finished, but I just like didn't put them away because I'm like, oh, I want to sit down, I want to knit. But I like the idea of setting time aside to do something outside of knitting or crochet or fiber or whatever you're doing, spinning, and taking care of your space. Like whatever that means to you, if it means cleaning it, like with actual cleaning supplies, or like reorganizing it or rearranging it. I love that. And it makes me think too, and maybe this is just my panic because I'm like, but I want more time to knit, is you could also incorporate your like timer into that. Like if you're like, okay, I'm gonna give myself even just a 15-minute break, and I'm just gonna organize like that little corner of the room right there, and like set a 15-minute timer, organize, clean up that space, and then like when the timer rings, you can go back to whatever crafty thing you're being pulled to do.
That's literally what I do when I like, so I'll be like, the biggest thing, I didn't grow up with a dishwasher. So like I always did dishes by hand, and like my parents always made us do them like that night. So like now that I have a dishwasher, I let things like accumulate, and I have no counter space as it is. So like I'll be like, okay, I'll look at the clock and I'll be like, oh, it's 5:33. I'm like, you are gonna clean this goddamn house until 6 o'clock, and you are not gonna stop. And then once it's 6 o'clock, you can decide if you need to do a few more things. But I think I treat a lot of things like that on time, like a job. Like, okay, like time, I feel like has been going, I think Darian said it, it's like the slowest, quickest year of our lives. But time is like so quick. Like I'll look, like it's 7 o'clock right now. How has it been an hour? You know, it goes by so quickly, but things really don't take that much time if you like just set aside time to do it. That's the important part, because I feel like I see so many like people, I think man, I'm gonna forget her username right now, but she posts TikToks all the time about how she's like sipping her coffee in the morning and on TikTok for like an hour and a half, and it's like you probably don't realize in those moments that you're spending like an hour and a half scrolling through TikTok. Like I am one of those people who's like like last night, like I was on the couch and it was like 9 o'clock, and then I looked at my phone again and it's like 11:30, and I had spent so much time on my phone, and I was like, oh my goodness, I probably could have like crocheted so much during this time, you know, just kind of recognizing that like the amount of time things take, and like cleaning doesn't take that much time out of your day compared to like setting aside that time away from your phone. I know Knititude said that, but like it is like a toilet bowl. You just kind of get sucked right in.
Mm-hmm. It's true, and it's funny because I remember being in school, and like obviously I was in school most of my life, like going through grad school. One thing I was like really good at, and my friends would always be like, Brie, I'm so jealous, or like, how do you do that? Was I would use, like, I was so intentional with my time. If we like ended early and we had like an extra 15 minutes, I was like, oh, I'm going to start writing this, or I'm going to start reading this, when other people would be like on their phones or like just doing nothing. And I was like, but you have 15 minutes. Like, that's a good amount of time. And then you don't have to do it at the end of the night when we're done with class at 9 o'clock. Like, and I was so good at it, but like, I seem to have forgotten that a bit after school, that like, I can do other things too. Like, you have 15 minutes, go clean just the counter. Okay, clean the counter, and then that's it. That's all you have to do, that one small thing, instead of like, oh, I need to clean the entire apartment, or like
you're gonna feel better once it's done. Like, I don't know, like I say that to myself. I'm like, bitch, you're gonna feel better once it's done. You're just looking at it, making yourself feel bad about it. Like, I probably have like laundry in my living room that's been sitting there for like 4 days, and I stare at it every single day, and I'm like, it'll take me like 25 minutes to fold. Like, I should have done that last night. But just kind of identifying those things. Like, I think with 2021, I've really identified those sort of things, especially, you know, creating that schedule is like, okay, I work at this desk from 9 to 5. And then once it's 5 o'clock, you can do whatever you want, but you also have to set aside a half hour to try to do something active. Like, it's only a half hour, Shannon. It's really not that much time. Because I can get I'm like, oh, I've finished work. I don't want to do a damn thing. Like, I just want to sit around. Like, I really don't want to do it. I mean, okay, it's only going to be a half hour. Once it's over, I feel good. You know, kind of those driving forces that'll make you feel good. Like, I feel like I've gotten in those good habits where I'm like starting to do those things and feel good. So I start repeating those things. Trying to create great habits at 26 is not good. I think I think I should have learned this or at an earlier age, but I'm doing my best. So that's all I can do. But getting in those good habits is like what I'm trying to do, and creating that space and time to like do those adult things, I guess. I hate to call it that, but
it's true, because the more you do it and you recognize like, oh, that felt good, like, oh, I cleaned all that stuff up, oh, that felt good, you're gonna do it more.
yeah.
Like that time or cleaning the thing, it's gonna motivate you to do it again in the future and create that habit. And like maybe one day you'll get to a point where you don't need to talk yourself into doing the thing, and you do it because you know, and like maybe not, that's fine too, I guess. It doesn't matter if you get to that point. But I love this challenge. I'm super excited for it. I'm super excited to see what other people do and what works for them, if they use a timer, if they don't. Maybe challenging yourself, like, okay, 10 minutes, like 5 minutes, how much time do you need to set to do a thing, and letting us, I know, definitely tag me if you post about it, or share about it. Share your organized spaces. I love that shit.
I love setting, like, my biggest timer for like organization is usually a half hour to an hour, because I feel like I have so much, maybe it's just me, maybe I have so much crap around my apartment that I got to clean up, but I'm one of those people who like does my makeup and I keep everything up. Like, I'm not one of those put away people after you're done with an item. And like, I think that's something I missed. Like my siblings, my sister is so good at that. She's like, if you just picked it up after you're done with it. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Why would I clean it after I did it? So that's a habit I'm trying to break personally. But just kind of setting that time aside to be organized, even if it's, I have my notebook, but like kind of organizing what you want to do, even if that's organizing a list or like writing down, like I am always writing down everything. Like I wrote down my challenge on sticky notes. Like I'm a little crazy, but just kind of like writing down, like I always write down design ideas or like things I want to do personally. But also like not setting too high expectations for yourself, not getting mad at yourself when you don't complete them either, sort of thing. So it's like just kind of creating that time to get organized, even if it's 5 minutes of like creating a to-do list. Just do it. It'll make you feel a little bit better.
Yeah. I think all the time. It's funny because I'm like also I used to be. It feels funny to say I am because I haven't been doing it, but I write everything down. My planner, I have like a pack of color-coded like pen markers, and it was so organized. And when I was going into the office, I'd always take the first like 10, 15 minutes of the day to like log into my computer and then just like set up my planner, think about what I needed to get done, what appointments I had. And now I don't do that anymore. And it feels like, oh, I don't have time. And I don't know, I'm like rushing right into meetings because they're like, oh, you don't have a commute, so we're going to start our meetings right at 8:00. But like, you could set a timer for 5 or 10 minutes and like set a to-do list for the day, and it would probably make you feel good because you used to enjoy that stuff. So yeah. I'm grateful for this. I'm super excited. Any last words, Shannon? I know we're keeping people a little bit long today, but any last
I don't really have any last words. Just kind of making yourself, I feel like a lot of people, one of my biggest pet peeves, and I have to say, is when people, and I appreciate people who do this, like I love it, but I also have a secret hate for it, is people who like apologize for being away from social media, like who come and they're like, I'm so sorry I haven't been present, like I've been doing, like I don't feel like people should have to apologize for taking time for themselves to make themselves feel good. I know personally, like I take a lot of time away from Instagram sometimes and I don't post on my stories. I'll have people message me who check in on me and I'm like, I appreciate that, but I'm not, I won't be one who apologizes for taking my time, like especially when I'm like going through some stuff. I really need my time away from social media. So I think it's just important to recognize what makes you feel good and what doesn't make you feel good and try to, set those boundaries for yourself too.
I think that's perfectly said. I have nothing else to add to that. And I am learning, and I feel encouraged to like try a lot of the things that you're saying that I'm like, yeah, I know that, and you still do it. Like, that's silly. But when you hear it from someone else, it feels easier to take in and like try it out. And so I'm super grateful for you and our talk. And it was really fun to learn.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
And this is definitely not coming from a place of perfection. You know, we're all growing and like learning together. So don't come to me with organizational tips, because I'm not the organizational queen. I'm just saying, like, this is something I'm working on that's making me feel good. So we're all growing and learning and doing stuff together. And I'm super grateful you invited me, and I'm excited that we were able to sit and chat. And I am excited to see everyone's challenge. I'll have to post like a picture of my office maybe. It's been just like weird, my setup. I have a lot of like things going on the floor right now. So I'll do my best to fix. That's my next to-do list actually, is to figure out where I'm putting all these tripods and canvas things I have. But.
Well, I'm excited to see share. I can't speak for the world. I'll just speak for myself that I'm interested in seeing the organization stuff, whether it's your yarny things, your kitchen cabinet thing. Motivates me because I think I come from the same place that like, I don't talk about self-care because I'm perfect at it. Like, I'm just a human, and it's fun to try and do things together. And so I'm excited to see what you're trying and what you're doing, and I'm sure it'll motivate.
Yeah. And I know one of Kate mentioned on her Instagram live, like digital organization too. I don't want to touch that subject because I feel like that's a tough one. I'm just getting good at digital organization, and my camera roll on my phone is just like disgustingly full. So but I also think that might be a good one if people are, you know, feeling a little lost on like what to do.
Yeah, I'm with that. So I'm gonna have to talk to Kate about that one. And I feel like there are a lot of people who are gonna have to think about that one and check that one out too. So definitely just a starting point. Lots of place to go. I'm super excited. Thank you so much, Shannon.
Yeah.
Tag us, everybody, folks, if you're playing along. So fun playing along. If you're playing along with us. I chose the winner finally for the December giveaway. It took longer than I expected because I'm not going to apologize, because Shannon says I don't have to, because I didn't get to it, and
you're getting to it now. That's all that matters, you know. Exactly. I think as long as people are like communicating with what is going on, I think that's okay. I mean,
yeah, and I got to it, and it's fine. And then a week from now, there'll be another giveaway. So yeah, waiting for that. So if you're watching these videos, if you're on Instagram, definitely post and use the hashtag selfcarecollaborative2020. Tag me in it, because I like to see it, and because it helps me make sure that you're entered for the giveaway. Make sure you're tagging folks whose challenge you're doing, because I know that it's really exciting for them to see what that's like for you too. And yeah, keep taking care of yourselves, taking care of each other. I'll talk to y'all